Number 2, you're gonna laugh at this. I laughed at it as well, but you've got to find the drink and know where to put the stink. If you're like me, growing up, you probably watched Little House on the Prairie. You know, the story about the family moving west, being able to find a piece of land and build their home, actually multiple homes they were able to build. And you probably thought to yourself, man, wouldn't that be great one day to be able to go out in the wilderness, find a perfect piece of land and build my home? Well, it's not really that uncommon for people to think about this process of building their first home. I get the privilege of having a number of different conversations with first-time homebuyers. And generally, the first meeting I have with them, we talk about the type of home they're looking for, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, even square footage, and the perfect backyard. But after that conversation of finding the perfect home, it's almost like a secret comes up, or almost like they interrupt to say, hey, I want to share something with you. And this happens pretty much every single time. They go, and this is how it goes. They go, you know, Zach, this is what we're looking for. This is the area. But they said they would go like this. If, by the way, if you came across a piece of land, we wouldn't be opposed to building our own home. And so it got me questioning over and over, why are people so interested in building their own home? Well, it really came up to 2 reasons. Number 1 is it allows them to really get what they're wanting because they control the plans and they get to build it to whatever specs that they'd like. And number 2, there's a thought that they're actually going to be able to do this process for less expensive or a cheaper process than buying a resale home or a brand new constructed home that a national builder or local builder did. And so this Little House on the Prairie lie, I wanted to share in this video the truths of building a home. And it's really important to share these truths because as I have these conversations with folks, we start to walk through this path and all of a sudden their eyes go from going, okay, this is a good idea, to getting bigger and bigger and bigger and going, actually, you know, I don't want to do that. And here's the point number 1 and the first starting point that you have to consider, and that is the land trap. Now, the land trap is this: not all parcels of land are created equal. Land in itself might look buildable and might look like a great parcel to put the home on, but there might be some hidden things that could come up that would totally stop you from building on it. The first thing is utilities. Utilities are required for a home. There needs to be some sort of source of electricity, some source of plumbing, and some source of drinkable water, really to be able to have a home that fits your needs. And so what are the utility situation like? And I'm gonna share more of that in point number 2. But utilities, the topography of the land. There are some times that you might be able to look visually at a piece of land but not see some of the slopage, some of the things that are required to really put a nice plan in place for that home to be built. So there might be some dirt work that's required. It may be wooded to where you have to clear. Another thing to watch out for, and in my state where I'm at, this is almost like a foregone conclusion, is wetlands. Wetlands are those areas that remain wet. It also might have a seasonal pond or a hidden creek. And so there's things that need to be considered when looking at a piece of land that could be a really good deal where you're like, wow, it only is gonna cost me this much to purchase. I could totally build a house upon it, only to find the land trap. A couple of other things to consider too as you're looking for land. If you ever come across a parcel of land where the neighboring properties are on all four corners of it, that might also mean that there is an access issue where you might have to purchase an easement from a neighbor or look to see what type of accesses you have to those properties. And don't be surprised if you're looking in coastal areas, whether it's lakes, rivers, or even ocean, to really understand the soil studies of what the erosion is happening. Because I've seen it in areas in Washington where someone owns a parcel of land, but it's under the Pacific Ocean. So it's really important to understand when going through this process that there is a land trap. So there's a lot of research that has to be done up front. Number two, you're gonna laugh at this. I laughed at it as well, but you've got to find the drink and know where to put the stink. And most rural properties or properties that are away from a city will require a well and a septic. Now I say most, but it's also important to understand just because it's in a city or municipality doesn't necessarily mean that there is a water or sewer line right outside the property line. Now you always have to remember that there is additional costs in bringing those lines from the street to where you're building that house, and so that's always a cost to figure in. But if there is not available where they're serviced in the street, you're gonna have to find where's the drink and where to put the stink, because those two things can really, really hamper the process. In the state of Washington, there's actually a 100-foot setback between a well and a septic system on-site sewage system. And you might be going, why 100 feet? I'm gonna tell you, it should be 1,000 feet. I don't want the stink to get anywhere near my drink, you know? And so it's one of those things that you really wanna understand where is the services coming in and where do they need to go out from. There are some times where when they do a percolation test to see for a septic system that you may need to communicate with a neighbor and get some sort of easement for the drain field depending on that area. And so it's really important to understand where those two things are coming from. On top of that as well, electricity is another one that's incredibly important. Now some of the rural areas may rely on solar power, but electricity seems to be a lot more readily available than water and sewer. So that's why I have those as two incredible important points. Now, number three, this one is where buyers tend to stray. They may say, hey, I'm gonna do a lot of the work myself. I don't mind digging. I don't mind locating. I don't mind really doing the research. But when they hit this point right here, this is the point where the eyes get really big and they realize, you know what, I may just want to do a resale home or something that's already constructed. And this point is, it is a waiting game. What do I mean by that is you're gonna have site plans. Where's the footprint gonna go of the house? Those plans have to be submitted. And there's gonna possibly be some questions or some changes that have to happen or additional studies. Also, when you submit your building plans, those will need to be approved. When you get your electrical permit or your plumbing permit, or if you're getting on-site sewage or drilling for a well, all of those require permits and sign-offs, and so it is a waiting game. We find on average that from the point of purchasing a parcel of land to when a shovel goes into the ground, it's usually about 18 to 24 months of a process that you're going through. And during that entire time, you are still accruing expenses that are required out of pocket. Now, there's some great construction loan products, but it is one of those things to do your research to understand what needs to be done up front. Also the process and timing, and finding a place to live in the interim. See, why I called this the Little House on the Prairie lie is, hey, these folks just went out into the wilderness and they started building right away. When in all actuality, now it is a waiting game. And so with point number three, it's incredibly important to understand that. Now I'm gonna share point number four is there's a code for that. And I would highly recommend in your research understanding building codes, as well as electrical codes and plumbing codes, because those are the three codes that you're gonna have to abide by. Now, the Little House, they didn't have building codes. You could just construct a home however you saw fit. But in your state, your municipality, your city or county, there is a building code that you must follow. And so I highly recommend going to the planning and development department of that municipality to understand what type of codes they're going to hold you to. That's also where they're going to be looking at the plans and holding them to those. Now, my last point is you're going to start when you're 20, you're going to end when you're 40, and you're going to go, what? You just told me it was 18 to 24 months. How are you saying now it's 20 years? No, you're gonna feel like the process has just aged you. I find that when most people build, it puts a strain and a stress on them because there's so many decisions coming at them. There's so many different variables. I've heard stories where somebody has purchased a piece of land, they go to build, and unbeknownst to them, there is a endangered species of grass, and it changed their entire site plan. Now where they wanted to build their house had to flip-flop. Where the well they thought it was gonna be, they found out it was on the opposite, and then they had to perk the other area to see if they could get on-site sewage. And there's so many intricacies to it that really when you start to dive into it, you find out that it really doesn't save you a whole lot of money. And even though you may have plans of what you wanna build, it might not be allowable for that footprint on the land. There's a few key terms that are incredibly important, and those are setbacks. So there's going to be required setbacks from wetlands, or from the property line, or from the on-site sewage system, or from the well, that really have to go into place. And so you're really going to feel like this process takes 20 years, and it is a long process. And so if you're still considering, after watching this video, of building your first home, I highly recommend that you partner with a real estate professional. See, all of that research you could do, but I would highly recommend employing somebody on your behalf to start that process and to introduce you to the proper folks that you can really unlock that research. And so I'm a big proponent that in whatever local market, wherever you're watching this at, start with the most local people. They're gonna know where those buildable lots are. They're gonna find those red flags in a parcel of land that really will hamper you if you move forward. Folks, I'm not lying. I have seen it where someone has bought a parcel of land, has not done the research, and in less than a year has it relisted. And guess what? They weren't able to even sell it for what they purchased it for. And that's not a fun process. So I definitely reach out to a local professional. Now, if you're in Snohomish County or King County, Skagit County, the Positive Change Real Estate team and myself would love to help you in this process and walk you through those red flags, introduce you to folks at the counties or at the city levels that you're looking for. And so if that is you, feel free to reach out. I've got my social links down below. You can direct message me, as well as if you are have a specific question that you feel should be answered a little bit further, go ahead and put it in the comments down below. I always love making additional videos. Speaking of additional videos, if you're in the process of buying your first home, there's a video right here that you should click on with additional things to think about when purchasing your first home. Well, folks, I really appreciate you watching this video and being a part of this community. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that way you're notified when new videos come down. But until the next time, just remember, today is a great day that you can #createpositivechange. All right, take care.